I've been on stage since I was about 3 years old. I'm pushing almost 60 now, so I've had 5 decades on stages. So I got to work with all the big stars, the Spice Girls, James Brown, Enrique Iglesias. I did some of the biggest gigs ever done. If you're a good CEO, but you can't speak, you are missing out on 20 to 80% of the revenue your company could have. The one currency through every nation, every religion, every decade, going back over thousands of years, that really matters is your status, your ability to prove you are great at what you do. You've amassed stuff that you in what you've done, so you're qualified and done really well, and also that you're into what you do. And there's no better way of communicating that than being able to speak. The bottom line is, if you've created something incredible that could change the world, but you can't communicate it to anybody, it will die with you.
Hello, and thank you for listening. If you could do me a favor and subscribe to my page, you would receive notifications when a new episode has come out. If you could like and comment, that would be even better, because then we can open up a conversation and try to carry it in the next episodes and seasons. Thank you. Public speaking is one of the most common fears in the world. The thought of standing in front of a crowd, all eyes fixed on you, can make even the most capable person freeze. Yet it's also one of the most powerful skills anyone can develop, a gateway to influence, confidence, and connection. Whether it's delivering a message that matters, pitching your ideas, or simply learning to speak with presence, mastering public speaking can completely change your life. But how do we go from fear to freedom on the stage? This and everything else about public speaking we're going to discuss with public speaking coach Dave Crane. Hi, Dave.
It's so good to see you. I've not been called a coach for ages, actually, to be honest with you, but I love it. Thank you so much.
And actually, I wanted to, I missed a word, because I think when I was doing research on you, it said public speaking master coach, which kind of feels more like...
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's the thing about saying coach is there are so many people out there who call themselves coaches. And what they've actually done is they work for a company like a bank or something, or a training company. And in that, they showed people how to speak. And they also showed people, how to stand and all the rest of it, which is fine. And so, or they've been in Toastmasters, which is fine. But it's when you've got a paid gig in front of an audience and people who've paid your money who are wondering how you're going to enhance their event because they want more than 1 million times the turnover of investment, then you're actually a proper speaker or not. And you've got to look at the different types of speaking you're doing to be able to turn around and say, yeah, just give me a microphone, I'll sort it out. And that's why people hire me. Any event, sporting, whatever it is, and just throw me at it and I make it work. So that's why I like to distinguish myself from the normal coaches on there. Because if you don't do that, people turn around when you're working with them, or they're about to work with you, and they say, yeah, but you're very expensive. And I'm like, well, but I'm really good.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want a result and quality, then
Absolutely.
Right? It justifies. I want to talk about public speaking because we just spoke a little bit before we started recording that, public speaking right now is not just being on a stage. There's so many ways of, being in front of a public, and social media being as one of the main big platforms, but many platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook,
Skills.
LinkedIn. That is a new skill that had to be learned. How was it for you? So you've been on public eye in a way for a long time, and you've changed into more like a mentor right now for others. But how do you see that extra aspect of public speaking right now when it comes to social media?
Okay, so just reversing it slightly, I've been on stage since I was about 3 years old. I'm pushing almost 60 now, so I've had 5 decades on stages. So as to the range of things I've done virtually everything. From hosting Dubai Rugby Sevens to speaking at the United Nations, at the World Economic Forum, hosting numerous events, just lots of different stuff. So what we have right now, and I don't think speaking is new remotely because it's always been the way to really guarantee an audience. What is fascinating about speaking right now is when you've got so much AI and the new stuff from Sora 2 is just off the chart, they can make the sound just as good as the visuals. And that's what's going to revolutionize the Hollywood industry, the music industry, the movie industry. What you've got is a really sweet spot of, are we in front of a real human being who's able to deliver in real time and we can see them doing it? Now, that might be up to 1,000 people in the room, because if it goes any bigger than that, they're on a screen, and that means it could be any AI affecting the screen. So your ability to reach up to 1,000 people in a relatively small stadium ballroom is a skill that can't be taken away from you. In the same way as with AI, everyone worries about their jobs. I don't think they should worry about their jobs, but you add AI to it because it'll increase your ability to think, but people will pay you for the ability to make a final judgment on what your job description is.
Yeah.
So when it comes to inventions and smart people and everybody else, the bottom line is, if you've created something incredible that could change the world, but you can't communicate it to anybody, it will die with you. So going back over thousands of years, whatever it is, your ability to share that is massively important. And the one currency through every nation, every religion, every decade, going back over thousands of years, that really matters is your status, your ability to prove you are great at what you do. You've amassed stuff that you in what you've done, so you're qualified and done really well, and also that you're into what you do. And there's no better way of communicating that than being able to speak to support your thoughts and your ideas to a mass audience.
You were saying that you've been on stage since you were 3. So for you, it was straight, like you knew what you wanted to do when you were a child, and you said for the last 50 years you've been doing the same thing. So have you ever had that question, am I on the right path? Is this what I should be doing? Maybe I should have done something else. Can you talk about this first part of your life?
Dipping deep into my brain, where's it all come from?
Yeah, where it comes from. And maybe you can talk about a little bit where you were raised and where
Sure.
yeah.
I'm happy to talk about that, because from the age of 3, I was doing school plays. I went to a very musical school in Scotland, in Barassi, in Troon, where they have a big golf course. And so my first experience is, like any kid, is just to be in the school play. And if you're a kid of mixed race, growing up where everyone else is white, as it was in Scotland, and indeed in England for most of my time there, then what you find is there's 2 ways to be able to survive. You become really good at fighting, or really good at making people laugh. And in order to make people laugh, then you've got to be able to work out whether they are your friend or your foe, and what's going to make them tick and what's going to make them angry. And so you end up with the ability to work out the Wi-Fi code of the people in front of you. So that's profiling them and working out what they want to hear from you. What's that relationship going to be? And that's my superpower. So eventually that became what I do in front of a stadium full of people. I actually work the Wi-Fi code, get it right, and stick with it. So did I always think I was going to be a speaker? No, because you're a kid. You think about girls and other things like that. You know, what's on telly? Can I watch the cartoons? And most of my career, I say most of my career, I've just realized how old I am. A large chunk of my career, being able to do public speaking or even being an entertainer, was seen as just like, oh, we've got a jester over there. Come over here, do funny stuff. It was never until maybe the last 5 to 10 years seen as a really important martial art of the business community. Before that, if you're a good speaker, oh yeah, he's a good speaker. If you're a good CEO, but you can't speak, you are missing out on 20 to 80% of the revenue your company could have if you're a signature thought leader representing your organization. And so most CEOs think they're great at speaking because their audience claps, which is predominantly their staff. They clap, of course they're going to clap because they're going to get paid by you. But they don't realize how much they bury the energy in a room when they start talking about what they do, unless they are effective public speakers.
Yeah.
So my background is winning talent shows. When I was 11, I won a talent show that was effectively like The Voice or Scotland's Got Talent in Scotland.
So people and your family, your parents, they already saw that talent in you. So maybe you didn't know that you would be a public speaker, but was that a talent from the get-go?
No, I was a singer. I started off as a singer because you don't do, who wants to hear an 11-year-old kid talk? He hasn't got anything to say apart from, oh yeah. So I was singing and winning competitions like that. And as I said, I came second in Scotland when I was 11. And I didn't realize it until after my dad had passed. And I talked to my mum about this maybe about a couple of years ago. She said, you know that we decided that we were never going to encourage you to be an entertainer. And I said, well, why? Because I became an entertainer and they always supported me, but they never drove it. But I remember in the early days sitting there singing in front of my parents to learn all the words. I would be crying my eyes out because I'm sick of doing this. I had to learn every word. And my dad decided that he wasn't going to encourage a career in entertainment because it was so cutthroat. And to be a parent driving your kids, you have to be so hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came second in Miss Talent competition in Scotland, by all means, I probably should have won. But the reason I didn't win was because the woman who did win was actually marketable for the organization who'd organized it. They can take her on tour, all these gigs around, this is our star, best in Scotland. An 11-year-old kid, you can't take anywhere. They've got school to go to.
Yeah.
They've got laws, and they're probably not that far back. They had laws anywhere on anything to do with kids. But you couldn't be the winner because why are you going to take the second winner out on tour?
I wonder if there's it's not always just about talent, but about politics and about who you can, who you can't.
Really? I can't believe that for a second.
But you were just saying a little bit, which I'm just curious, and I hope you can talk a little bit about. So you said your parents were mixed race. Can you
Mum's from Nevis in the West Indies, so she's very dark, and my dad was from Leeds in the UK, so he was very white.
Meet?
Fascinating. When I went back, and this is something I'd recommend to everyone to do, if your parents are still with you, or one of your parents is still with you, or if you haven't got your parents, do it for your kids. I interviewed my dad about, I didn't know it was going to happen, 3 weeks before he passed. He passed of COVID, so with no idea it was going to happen. I asked him 12 questions about his life.
Wow.
And these 12 questions allowed me to find out lots of different things about him. It's just like, oh my goodness. And actually the last, I did 9 questions. I expected to come back for the other 3 later, but I never got a chance to. But I did find the notes that he had. So I got closure on the last 3 questions years later when I went to help my mum clean out the house and stuff.
Wow, goosebumps.
And I interviewed my mum when I went back in the UK, in Leeds. And I asked her that question, you and Dad met at a party? She says, yes. I said, tell me more about it. They were living in the same flat. It was a Christmas party. I didn't know that. They were living in this apartment block and everybody was invited. I thought it was just some works of, and I didn't have any perspective on it. They lived in Leeds in the 60s, and the way it was treated was the black community, it was much more racist, I guess, than it is now, even though it's kind of divisive now. But black people didn't play with white people or vice versa. And when they both got together and fell in love, both communities said, it's not going to work, don't do it.
Wow.
And they said, we're going to make it work. And if nobody else wants to help us, we'll do it on our own. And they were married for 55 years, which is just incredible.
Beautiful.
And so that's what brought them together. Mm-hmm. But it was a difficult time for them. And all the way through, I mean, I know I picked up a lot of the experiences that they had. My wife is from Singapore. She's Asian, which makes my daughter Blasian, a mixture of everything. And for me, I don't see color. I notice it, but it doesn't stop me, and religion doesn't stop me, and any of that stuff. I'm just interested in good people. So it allowed me to be able to, again, with the Wi-Fi code, to be able to see the good in people and the terrible stuff in people at the same time.
Oh, that's really interesting. So there's like a fusion of a lot of things for you now and for you when you were growing up, and you were saying that you were in school and that was one of the struggles because of the race as well. Were you one of, like, you went to Scotland?
One of the only one in school. So I went to this big school. It's a rough old school. Imagine going to Hogwarts without any magic. It's called Mar College in Scotland. They melded a lot of schools together, brought them in there. It'd been a very former public school and just opened it up for everybody. So I had a really hard time just surviving there. And school-wise, I wasn't doing very well. And my dad's job changed. So we moved from Scotland to England. And so I got a chance to start again in a new town, new people. And in Scotland, the education system is slightly better than England because there's fewer people. So the money stretches further.
More individual.
Better stuff. So I was about half a year ahead, 6 months. So that means that when I moved down to England, I was about 13 years old. The first 6 months of getting to know people, I knew the school curriculum. I'd already covered it in Scotland. Not very well, but I knew it well enough to not have to learn it. So that meant I could concentrate on the social side of getting to know people. So I found myself, and it sounds ridiculous to say, but it was like everyone was so easy to play with, having been in the cutthroat experience I'd been in. I'm not talking about Scotland. I'm just talking about where I'd been and what I'd dealt with. It felt like a wolf among sheep. because I could really get on with people. And even though I was short and very different from everybody else, I was able to just lean into what I felt was easy, and speaking, communicating, and I was good at sports. And because I was slightly older than most of the people my age, that's a massive difference, because your emotions are slightly more mature, physically you're slightly more mature, so you don't get bullied the same way. But I had a fascinating conversation after I was working with the BBC. I went to a concert. I was chatting with the roadies, and one of the roadies was the big brother of one of the girls in my class at school. Roger Middlecote, he was called. And Roger and I were chatting. I keep knocking the microphone, which is a terrible thing to do for a guy who's an expert at microphones. And so there we go. But I was chatting to him, and he said, you know that I used to be head of a rugby team? He was head of a rugby team at school. I said, yes. He said, when you arrived at school, we made a decision that we really liked you. And so all the rugby team decided to protect you and make sure you did well in that school. I didn't know that. I'd left the school many years. Amazing, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah. I wonder what was the decision. Yeah, it got you and it got me. What do you think that is? What was it about that decision for them?
I guess that they must have liked me, so I was a good lad and made a decision that they'd overheard people who didn't like me. And because rugby team is so influential in the school politics and social life, they just made a stand.
That brings me to something that actually we spoke a few weeks ago with Darius as well, about how important it is to have leaders who operate from goodness. You know, if you have a leader who operates from, he looks like a good guy, and that is the main metrics that you look at people, that will be such a blessing to someone's life. Whereas other people, being leaders, will go through, is he strong? Is he not strong? If he's not strong, he's not, there's the difference on how important it is for someone who has influence to have that moral.
You got to give back. And I would say that without knowing it, that was one of the most pivotal changes in my life, because I was given a level playing field to play with without knowing that it was augmented, and they'd put their thumb on the scales to make sure I was able to breathe and grow on my own. I found it relatively easy to get on with people and go into music. I was a DJ for many years. I used to work on the radio as a DJ. Used to DJ in clubs and do all the big... In fact, when I went to university to study law in Essex, I hated studying law, but I became a DJ for the student union. And that's the only thing that people would remember me for. Oh, you have a DJ? Yeah, perfect. So that allowed me as well, because I was working at the BBC as a news reporter in the UK. But when I decided I'd had enough of the UK, from micro-racism, I was stopping from getting a job, to grow where I needed to be, I traveled as a DJ, and that brought me to Dubai. So I was one of the first DJs to sort of make an impact. And because in those days, 30 years ago, Dubai was called a hardship post. People traveling to Dubai, we need to throw money at you for your schooling, the holidays, and the house and the car will pay for, because it wasn't what they thought it was going to be, but it was really. And so being a DJ was really important, because you had to make sure people felt entertained when they're miles away from the people that they love.
Can I just ask one question about how did you decide to go to law? What was it about law that was it this assumption that people just get a lot of money there, or was it fighting for weak or for truth?
Can I make a confession to you?
Tell me.
I hated law, and I didn't want to go anywhere near it.
I was always thinking of law as well. And I was like, I just think it's so much bureaucracy and papers and laws.
Here's how I got to my law school. Because when you were in the old days, 8,000 years ago, I was about 15 years old. I was brought into the careers officer's office and asked, Dave, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be famous. I want to work on radio and TV. And she looked through her big book of stuff and said, there's nothing in here for that. What else would you like to do? I said, nothing. That's all I want to do. And she said, well, do you want to choose something else? I said, no. So I ended up in a conversation with my parents about it. And there's a thing called second-generation Holocaust syndrome. That's another story to unpack. My father's parents were Jewish German refugees during the Second World War. My original name is Crone. No, my name is Crane, but the origin name is Crone. And Dr. Crone from Crohn's disease was an ancestor of mine.
Oh.
And just a little sort of soundbite on this. My grandmother was when she was 3 years old, the Nazis took away her dad at gunpoint, took him to a concentration camp, held a gun to her head and said, if you come back here to visit him, we'll shoot you. She was smuggled onto a train that was passing from Germany to France to the UK. They stopped it. The Nazis stopped it at the French border and made half of it go back to Germany. And she was on the front half. And that's how she got to the UK. And that's how I survived and became me.
Wow.
It wouldn't have happened otherwise.
That is incredible.
Can you imagine my grandpa and my grandmother in their early teens going over to the UK as the enemy, because the Germans ultimately, and as persecuted, his entire families had gone. They were rich before they came over, couldn't speak English. They were put in camps, containment camps in the UK, and had to get local jobs to pay for themselves. I mean, we talk about life now and, my phone's run out of batteries. Can you imagine what they were going through in those days?
That's insane. And that brings me to culture. Actually, I was thinking how much of different cultures, I wonder, was in your life, from your mom's side, from your dad's side, from your ancestors. Can you talk about like what kind of food? Was it very British, very traditional British food and music and TV? Or was there any influences from other cultures?
Are you ready to be disappointed?
Yes.
The answer to that is I'm just a Brit. I didn't grow up with the black community. So my favorite band is Oasis. And I love Britpop music. And so I love guitar bands because all my friends loved all that. And I loved punk and I loved the 80s tunes and all the rest of it that I grew up with. So I don't have a culture to fall back on. Yeah. My mum would introduce some dishes, agreed. But my taste in food is probably driven more by my wife from Singapore, who introduced me to really spicy dishes, which I love now. And so I was as Brit as you can get. And here's what it becomes really challenging about. If you are as white Brit as it gets, the joke, my wife and my daughter will say you're like a coconut daddy. You're brown on the outside and white on the inside. So if you're as white as white, but obviously blend because of who you are and what you do, and you are pointed out by society and never allowed to be integrated because you are different and you're not trying your best to be the same as everybody else. You are the same as everybody else. Eventually it catches up with you in your 20s and you go, enough of this. If you guys don't get it and you won't help me, I'm off. And in that particular time, I was working at the BBC. I was running a magazine. I was doing some of the big events. I was interviewing big stars coming to the Northeast for free and putting them onto the network on the BBC. I actually went on a TV show called Blind Date, which is like the dating game. It was the biggest reality TV show at the time. Won the Christmas show in front of 20 million people to prove I'm really good at what I do. Here's your example to the BBC. You should be getting me off a freelance contract and give me a job. And I got in on the Monday, said, what do you think? And they sacked me. Why? They said, we can see your talent lies somewhere else, so we're going to let you go. Because the guy who was in charge was a racist. He didn't want me to be there in the first place. He was looking for an excuse. And the excuse I gave him is, I'm going to get rid of him anyway. What can I say? Oh, you shouldn't be here. You should be going off to seek a fortune. It's so weird. But I'm glad he did, because when I left, I never looked back. I had all that skill, all that stuff, came to the UAE, and I was trained to be a TV presenter, waiting to be employed in the UK, hit the ground running in Dubai as it was just emerging and media was just emerging. I went, I can do this. So I got to work with all the big stars, the Spice Girls, James Brown, Enrique Iglesias. I did some of the biggest gigs ever done at that time anyway, only because in the UK I'd been treated badly. And I got the chance to be able to say, Dubai is the most amazing place for this. If in Dubai you turn around and say, I can do this, we go on then. And that's beautiful because I could do it. And most people come here who've had enough of wherever they come from, get a chance to actually be who they truly need to be. And that's the magic of being in the UAE.
I think that is expat life. But yeah, Dubai probably specifically is where you kind of go away from everything that kind of has defined you for years. And all of a sudden you're here, you have a clean slate. You can just start over to a degree and really ask these big questions. Who are you? Like what you want to actually achieve and do. And it's kind of easier because maybe the old life or being back home things remind you of like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Oh, I'm from this place, or I'm, and I think here, none
Imposter
of
syndrome.
these.
It's called imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And it's not that you think it, it's that you were told it by so many other people because they think it the same for themselves.
Yeah.
That voice in your head that says, don't do it, you'll make a fool of yourself, is also the same as a voice at school. That teacher said, I'm working now, be quiet, shush, shush, I'm talking. Imagine how that impacts public speaking when all your life you've been told that if you want to be successful, shut up and pay attention to the teacher. There is no teacher. The education system doesn't work. And so you're trying to get your voice out there, but you're worried about what people will think.
Talk about 30 years ago when you came to Dubai. So you came with DJing, right? That was the first you got
Easiest
the first
thing to do.
Gig, right? How was Dubai then? I mean, in last 10 years, it's changed massively. So in 30 years, I mean, like there was like probably one tower, right? Like, or can you just very briefly talk about how has it changed vibe-wise?
Dubai's grown into itself, and it was always like that anyway. What I found when I arrived is the people who run the country have got a vision, and they've never dropped the ball once. Their vision is to make it number one in the world. And if you buy into their vision and you contribute to it, you can be number one in the world along with the vision and along with the infrastructure. And so when I arrived, everything was kind of new. There's sand everywhere. And when you traveled off to go from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, you'd stop off at a little village called Jebel Ali on the way. And then you'd have this long dust track with camels and stuff and all sorts that you had to avoid, because what we'd do is lie on the road because it's nice and warm. And if you hit a camel, suddenly the camel was worth $2 million because that was his prize camel. It wasn't his prize camel, but he would tell you it was. And so my claim to fame, once I finally pass off this mortal coil, and they won't know it, nobody will remember it, I brought the all-you-can-eat and drink deal to Dubai.
Oh.
Because I was working in a place in Middlesbrough in the northeast of England, and we did an all-you-can-eat and drink event for £25, where I was the entertainer, and you've got people coming in celebrating birthdays, all this kind of stuff. And so when we arrived in Dubai, I was running a sports bar. I said to the bar's manager, why don't we just implement this all-you-can-eat and drink concept? So we put it all together, and we called it the 100 Club, 100 dirhams, all-you-can-eat and drink. Yeah, so far back it goes. And it was packed. There was no mobile phones, nothing. And I was working in the JW Marriott, which is now closed since then. I love the guys. I still stay in contact with many of the staff. But what we had was just a completely different spell of what Dubai was going through. People enjoyed the party, they connected, they'd walk out of there looking at The Walking Dead. And it was in the early days before everyone had a mobile phone. So often, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, security guard would reopen the bar and open up the bathrooms to find somebody who'd passed out in the cubicle, but they couldn't call a mobile phone because there weren't any. In the dark, wondering, where am I? So that was one of the odd things that would happen every now and again. But yes.
And what was your initial plan? To come for a year, for 2 years, to
4
see
months.
where? 4 months.
4 months. In fact, I turned around and said, I'm only doing 4 months because you don't know what you're taking when you go overseas. And I heard about Dubai. Well, I don't know what it's going to be like. And so it was good I said 4 months because they'd actually signed me up for a 6-month contract. And I said, I'm leaving in 4 months. No, we've signed you for 6 months between the hotel and the DJ agency who were called Juliana's at the time. And I said, I'm not doing it. You got to pay me more money if you want me to stay. So they negotiated. What if we give you a year's contract and we just double your wages? I went, okay. So I did that.
Sounds
so
good.
I ended up in a situation which was amazing at the time. So we were doing really well, having a great time. And of course, the bars were really important as a social place where everybody would go to as a community place. It was, but everyone became brothers and sisters and wives and husbands just because all the normal family was away. And they're all at a certain age. There's no mobile phones. And so it's a really incredible experience at that time. And it was just nice to be at that place at that time while things were breaking through. So a radio station started up at that time. We had Dubai 92 before that, which was very much the station that everybody listened to. It wasn't great at the time. It's much, much better now. But we created one called 104.8 Channel 4 FM. So I was with a startup team for that. We were looking for local DJs who we could bring in. I'd already had a BBC experience and I'd got a chance to be a proper DJ. So they brought me on there. And we were just a breath of fresh air for the entire country. They brought over a lot of DJs from Capital FM in London. And so we just raised the game, a commercial radio station. I got a chance to be with them. And within the next 3 to 4 years, I ended up becoming station manager, which was amazing. So I had a chance to actually be, and I remember bumping into one of my old BBC colleagues who came over from the UK to Dubai. And she said to me, so what are you doing here? I said, I run a radio station. She said, what do you mean you run a radio station? You're a junior. They wouldn't give you a job at where I said, yeah, but now I'm a station manager. She was like, is this true? I said, yes. And that was just a Dubai story.
Yeah.
If you can do it, you will do it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that used to happen then, I don't know if it happens so much now. I had a lot of friends. Most of my friends left at some point for relationships ending or losing their job or the normal thing. And when they go back to their home country, because they'd gone up the food chain so fast here, they were at least 3 times bigger than they should have been by their age and job description. And so many of them couldn't get jobs in the UK because their boss wouldn't take them on because they were better qualified than they were. And so they ended up being unemployed, and many of them had to come back again or go to another overseas post because people were worried that their job would be in jeopardy if it took on this young guy who's clearly a big hitter. And so that's one of the things that was very different.
I guess the tax-free thing, and that I think the salary looks better here than usually back in Europe. So that probably played a big role. I also hear quite a bit of stories where, they're like, okay, I'm done with Dubai. I want to be closer to family. They go back. And after a while, they're like, no, we're coming back.
I can't stand my family.
I need love grows with distance.
Oh, that was an interesting phrase. Just to go on a sidebar. You know the phrase, blood is thicker than water?
Yeah.
You know what the original phrase is, an old English phrase?
No.
So blood is thicker than water is what your family will tell you about do stuff for your weird sister rather than going off and talking to your friends. The original phrase is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. What that means is the blood of the people you choose in your community is thicker than the blood of the people who are born to be related to you. So choosing your family or choosing your friends, the people who are going to give back to you are the ones that you should choose ultimately. That's what makes it thicker. It gets twisted the other way, but the original phrase, going back hundreds and hundreds of years, is actually that.
Wow. Do you live by it?
Yeah. And I always wondered, because my family are bonkers, not all of them, but I always wondered and Dubai throws you in. I always used to say in the early days, it's probably not true now, but I always felt like it was like you were on Titanic and it got washed up and you swam to shore and it was Dubai. So you had a real mixture of orphans who've survived whatever experience I had back home and suddenly started working together, making friends, creating relationships. And I do feel that the energy that's in the city, and it's thanks to the rulers, they made it easy and they always have done. Even during the pandemic, they did the best way possible to guarantee the business to work. If you're in entertainment like I was, it was terrible. I had 2 years of no work. Looking after a family, school fees, rent, dogs, it was horrible. But they did the very best they could for everybody else to make sure that you will still sustain and we will keep it going. And that's the vision these guys have. They're just geniuses.
You sound I already kind of noticed it when I was looking into you before. And now when we speak, I also feel like you're like a proper extrovert. Would you say that to yourself as well? Or do you have these two sides of you? You can be very introvert, but then when you're with people, you take it all out.
What do you think?
I think because I'm like that, I think most people would consider myself as extrovert, but I know that I have a big, I put a, how do I say it? I love time with myself, and I need balance between these two things. If it's too much people, I start getting annoyed. If it's too much time on my own, I start to get like apathic. So I need this kind of balancing between these two. And I wonder, what's your status on that?
I would have said that I'm a massive introvert, but professionally I'm an extrovert. When I'm in a group of people, if I'm not running the room, I don't want to run the room. I just be quietly happy watching and observing. And I read a phrase the other day about a thing called an omnivert. An omnivert is somebody who can be loud, can be quiet, but doesn't feel that there's a group out there for them to be part of. So it's different from ambivert. It's somebody who just does their own thing, but can switch it up and keep it calm. So for me, I've always felt that when I need to switch it on, I can do, and I'll run a stadium full of 50,000 people and talk in front of strangers, no issue at all. When I'm on my own, I love my quiet time. But what I had to do is after the pandemic, I realized that I had to come to terms with anxiety and depression. I'd gone for 2 years with no work. Apart from what I managed to scrape off for going live, I did 200 live shows on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, just to get clients from around the world. So when you're a public speaker trainer and nobody needs public speaking and there are no gigs, I had to fall back and what do I know that I can sell? I used to be a celebrity because I chose to stop doing radio at one point. That's another story. So I can teach people how to be a celebrity in their industry. So that's where my industry outcome program came from. My thought leadership I do right now came from. But I realized that as gigs were coming back, it was a mess. People were canceling because the boss got COVID or whatever it was and so forth. It took a good 2-3 years before everything became stable again. And I wasn't ready to negotiate with clients. Clients would say, Dave, we're interested in working with you. And I would say, great, because I needed money to come in. Yes, I'll take it. But then they would take their time coming back to me or not come back. And I wasn't strong enough at that point to do what I would do before when there's lots of gigs and say, look, are we doing it or not? I just hang on. And I realized that I was going for a really tough point. But as a hypnotist, as a life coach, as a therapist, I realized that I've got to ask myself better questions.
Hypnotist and therapist, what is that?
I didn't know that stuff. That's another story. Let me finish this one. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
So I'm a stage hypnotist
1 hour
as well.
is not enough with this conversation.
I'm a stage hypnotist and a hypnotherapist as well. So that was my way of getting out of being a DJ. I wanted to have a professional career, but what do? Stage hypnosis. Great. I learned that. Going back, after the pandemic, I realized that I've got to ask myself better questions about how to lift myself out of this mess that I'm in where I just don't feel good enough. And I realized it was imposter syndrome. I thought, well, break it down. Ask yourself better questions. So I broke it down to a way that I can translate to your viewers and listeners. That'll be really useful. I realized there's 3 stages to who we are. First one is, number 1 is your birth certificate name. That is your birth certificate, whatever your name is, David Maxwell Crane. You get that and you go to school. And through your friends and whatever it is, you create a personality through the way that you interact with people. And that version of you becomes your second version. The second version is your social media name, which is what you normally got on your business card or what people will know you for. And so that social media name, Dave Crane from the radio or whatever it was, wasn't strong enough because he was carrying baggage from previous life I'd had and so on, girlfriends and experiences. But also the pandemic had really ground him to go up every day online, desperate to make your family get through. I wasn't ready. And it was a thing called burn in, not burn out. It was like having your wheels stuck in sand and you're constantly revving but not moving. That's how I was. And I thought, well, how do I fix this? What if there's a third version of me? What would that be? And I realized when I'm at my peak, I've got a microphone in my hands, an audience, I've got a contract to make it work. I've got sponsors. I've got a show caller. I've got some kind of criteria that says it's got to be done. I've got a time limitation. All the factors, hostile, happy, doesn't matter. I make it work. There's a certain part of me that steps up to that and is brilliant at doing those live gigs. And when I make decisions, they're very quickly, you stop, and I don't care what people say. I make it work. So I thought, why don't I give that a personality? And why don't I create a character who can advise me on what I do next? So I called him Max, which is my middle name shortened. So that was Max. And I decided, if I've got a challenge, I can't deal with it. Why don't I ask Max how to fix it? So with contracts from clients where I'd send off a proposal and hear nothing back, I went, okay, Max, what do I do? Now, I'm not mad. I know what I'm doing here. I'm just choosing like an actor to have another character. So Max said to me, why don't you tell them that you got 24 hours to get back? Otherwise the contract is null and void. I thought, you can't do that. They've got to take it to procurement and to the board of directors and get it through like that. So I didn't want to kill the Max conversation because then it would just disappear back into my head. So I thought, okay, what if we compromise on 48 hours? So I put 48 hours on every contract, sent it out, and about 25-30% converted. The ones that didn't convert, because I'd set a time limit, I stopped thinking about.
Do you find it challenging to sell yourself or at that point where, because what you just described is putting urgency on whatever you are trying to sell, and that's what we all do. But a lot of creative artistic people struggle with that part. And I wonder if that's a dialogue in between you, where this part of you, you're like, I have to sell myself. And the other part, I don't know, does this sound good? Talk about changing into this like business model.
The answer to that, I'm just about to tell you as a final part of this conversation. And you've hit on it because you're very intuitive, which is lovely. So I thought, okay, this is working for me. And I started using Max more and more. And then I realized, what if you become Max? So I decided to be Max all the time, apart from with my family. So you are now talking to Max. Now imagine how that impacts the introvert. I don't have introvert tendencies the same way. I have quiet times to chill out and recharge my batteries. Mm-hmm. I don't go, oh, the world is worried about me, or the world's going to say horrible things. I say, bring it on, or ignore me, or whatever. Or if you're my friend and you take the mickey out of our relationship and disrespect me, you can go forever. And I've done that since without missing a beat. Why? Because that's what Max would do. I don't mind losing clients. I don't mind losing gigs. The respect I have for the people that I love and I care for is paramount. So now I'm not Dave. I am Max, but I'm still Dave because nobody gets it and nobody cares.
No. I completely get it. I think, I don't know, I know that it's not all people who do it, but I have the same. I have these different aspects of myself that oftentimes have a discussion and sometimes are very contradictive on one side, I would love to do all these things, and the doubt comes in, the one that I don't know if it's safe, it's something unpredictable. So it's therapy, which is interesting, that I wonder these therapeutic methods where you kind of, family constellations or something where you use all these different characters within yourself and all that. So whatever you're talking about, it completely resonates.
When I hypnotize people to be able to be better public speakers, I'll send you the audio so you can experience it yourself. I take them through that journey so they become that version of themselves. And I get that version to go on stage. And so their best version, whether they're great at computers or whether they're great at sports, because normally there's a yin and a yang to most people, and they're made to conform from school to switch off that version of themselves. So when you see somebody collecting their Oscar and they give an Oscar speech, 99 times it's really disappointing to watch that. Who's that? They just won an Oscar, but they're boring. Yeah, because they played a character. Very rare you'll get somebody, even the Jim Carreys and the big personality like Robin Williams. Robin Williams couldn't switch it off. He was always like that, apparently. And as an entertainer, you have to switch it off because you're not always going to have an audience to perform in front of. When you're with your friends, they don't want to hear you cracking jokes all the time and trying to be a big personality, because it's impossible to chill out with somebody who's like that all the time.
I think Robin Williams was suffering from depression as well, and that was his way of switching off,
Many entertainers, many comedians do.
Yeah.
And that comes from when you're entertaining people and they're laughing and loving every word you use. When you're off stage, how can you deal with people who don't care?
Do you wonder if it's like this dopamine rush that you get and then it goes down and you go and it's silent?
I experienced it. When I trained to be an entertainer, I went to the holiday resorts in the UK. In between going to the BBC and dropping out university, I spent 2 or 3 years being an entertainer, just with families coming to big hotels, and I would be part of a team that entertains them. And what you find is when you're in front of them, you've got to be really on point and you treat like a celebrity. And then when you're not with them, you've got to close the door and just have friends around you who would just be there with you. And when you're working, that's great. When you're not and you go back to your hometown, you're expecting everyone to recognize you. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares. And it's effectively like resting that actors go through. And so get that balance of being an entertainer and not being an entertainer, and being able to get yourself through that and flick a switch and switch it on is magical. And I think that now most people, if they don't have access to be able to do it, it's a skill they really need to be able to have.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about public speaking and right now how you help others. Because most people are not professionals. This is something they just need to learn, or something that they need as an element to what they're doing. Maybe they're experts in IT or AI, but they're not experts at talking. But they need to bring that message through. Either they need to pitch themselves or they need to, be the inspirational CEO for their employees. The reasonings are different. What are the main fear people have now when it comes to public speaking when they come to you?
It's usually a massive fear of getting it wrong and looking stupid in front of people, and climbing up and no words come out, or that it will affect their job and it's better if they don't do anything. And most of them are caught between the fact they'll lose their job if they don't step up and do it. But if they get it wrong, then what happens with that?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I share with them, the first thing is, who cares? If you get it wrong, most people don't know what you were going to say, get it wrong. But also one of the most key things is I say to them, never give a speech, never give a presentation again for the rest of your life. Have a conversation with your audience instead. So therefore, even if you got a speech, know the bullet points on it, make it so you only got bullet points and talk to your audience isn't allowed to talk back. This isn't a two-way conversation, but it's a rhetorical conversation you have with them. So the audience nods and you can say, do you get that? Yes, okay. Mm-hmm. And what that means is people are worried about the audience judging them. The audience doesn't judge you. What they do is they work out whether you're the right person to spend an hour with, and if you're going to say something that's going to make their lives better. They don't care who you are or what you look like, maybe a bit if it's on social, but they're just, what am I going to get from this transaction? Mm-hmm. So if you're able to get a brand out there saying, this is what I do and this is what I deliver and I'm very good at doing it, and you're able to communicate in a way that they can work out through your broken English what you're getting at, you've won the race. Mm-hmm. Because for many people who are brilliant, there's people much better communicators than me, much better thinkers than me, but unless they're actually at a position where people are paying attention to them, they're never going to get the access to it.
Do you think there's something, that speaking is the end result of the mindset inside, that's almost like you have to start with that before you can go and that presence that you have on the stage? Because I've seen some public speakers who are very casually speaking. They're not very entertaining and they're so, and I realize like sometimes less is more, but that less is more fits that person because, tech guys right now, all the nerdy guys.
Do you know why tech guys are so bad at speaking?
But they are, but it's so charming, weirdly. People are listening to Elon Musk being like talking very kind of like awkwardly, but people are like, because he has this sort of, brand around his name that people are accepting whatever but maybe...
The richest man in the world is a pretty good brand to get people's attention.
Yeah. No, okay, maybe this example is sort of like 50-50 because of last few years of what's happened. So his brand has been damaged a little bit, in my opinion. But no, I mean like in the industry.
Here's the thing. Yeah. If you're brilliant at coding, you're not brilliant at people. If you're brilliant at working out how to do things by looking at your keyboard, the odds are you're on some kind of neurodiverse spectrum. And I'm not saying it to disrespect. We're all on the same spectrum, but at different levels of it. So I am not very good at sitting on a computer and coding. I don't care, not interested, don't want to do it. My wife is brilliant at operations and all that other stuff, but she doesn't like to talk in front of a live audience. Different sides. Mm-hmm. So we can end up having arguments because we do two different skill sets. Yep. Generally, right now, tech is driving the world. So you've got very bad communicators who didn't grow up with relationships like I did, working out how to be benevolent as a leader and help people. They just get very good at this and we're kind of like this looking around at people. If you've got that and you're now in a massive position of power, which the tech guys are, you don't really care about people in the same way because you don't know people.
But also it's interesting, and I wonder if it has to be appropriate to the personality and industry. And maybe you can tell me if you think it's right or wrong. Because sometimes when it's too glossy and polished, it seems too salesy. When someone has prepared a speech and it kind of comes across as too prepared. I don't know if that makes sense. In certain industries that works, and in others like tech, but probably a few others, where it's not almost necessary to be a very entertaining speaker if that's not your professional job.
I think our standards have dropped, to be honest with you. I think there's so much noise and so many people talking and so many people thinking I've got something to say that the quality of what we'll accept is less, which is good. Because in the days when I first started watching broadcasting, welcome to the BBC. We're going to share with you exactly what you need to know, and you'll be very quick. And then we realized that there were people in different parts of England who don't speak like that, and Scotland and Wales and Ireland. And so they started changing the whole thing and start making it easier for people to communicate, and they get onto the BBC. The big challenge, I think, is that really, ultimately, being you is the key. And that's why I say have conversations, because if you can calm it down and you haven't got a massive fear of everything going like this, then as you calm down, your brain stops freezing and you don't go into temporary autism, which is what happens when you're scared. You don't notice people in front of you. That's why police were told, don't drive around and do car chases, because you can't tell if somebody's leaning for a wallet or going for a gun. Let them go, we'll monitor them, and we'll catch them later. Even to a point where they're saying, have one person per car, not two, so you don't egg each other on. So that ability to calm your thinking down means that you can think in real time and answer decent questions and read and have a conversation. And if you can get yourself like that, when you get yourself like that, using box breathing or another technique to calm yourself down, then get a microphone and then speak on stage. The reason that some people are really boring when they do that is because they don't have stagecraft. Stagecraft is you've got to leave your audience better than they were before you leave. And so you want to entertain them, and you want to be able to work the room, and you want to say, how are you doing? Good to see you. And you want them to feel that's part of the conversation that you could have sitting next to them. You just happen to be on the stage in front of them. Once you've got that ability to do it, then you can communicate with everybody. But then you've got to think about consequential thinking, what you say, what people think. And years later, you can be cancelled because something you said on a podcast or even a text message can come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
James Gunn, who's running DC and doing a great job, he made a post that was a homophobic post on Twitter. 11 years ago, somebody told Disney cancelled him. He had done Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, and the guy said, no, he's not like that. He's the same. Kevin Hart lost the Oscars the same way. And he said, this isn't me. And they finally went, okay, because all the Guardians of the Galaxy team said, we're not working with another director on another movie. So Disney went, okay, there you go, brought him back again. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I love Marvel, massive Marvel fan, met Stan Lee. And also I love DC, but he's now the head of DC because he was a genius. Yeah. And at some point he went, I don't want to be treated like this. I want to be treated the right way. And they gave him the entire keys to a kingdom. And that's why he's doing such amazing stuff over at DC. If
we go back to public speaking and the practical ways that people can, you said box breathing. Do you think, I've seen some motivational speakers are jumping on the trampoline before they go out.
Right.
What are the little tricks? And you were talking about hypnosis.
Tony Robbins does that, doesn't he?
I think he does it, yes. And I think I saw someone else. Steve Bartlett, maybe?
Steve Bartlett, that's fascinating. It doesn't surprise me. I think we're just raising their energy levels. So they got that, maybe they go from being CEO to being hyperactive, working the audience. So by jumping up, your heart's moving. So you go out there and you go, bang. Yeah. Maybe that's what we do. I don't do that.
I know whenever I've had any type of, presenting or going in front of an audience, I get this really stiff legs and this moment of like blank.
You freeze.
Nothing into your mind.
It's built into you.
And you're like freeze and you're so stiff and you're trying to like, I can't even explain it. You try to like flex your muscles so strong that they hurts. I don't know why that happens, but then something kind of, you snap out of it and you're like, you try to go further.
It's fight, flight, and freeze. A bear comes into your cave. You're a caveman. Hopefully it doesn't see you. Don't move. You're aware of where it is. You're still smelling everything, but hopefully if it goes back out the cave, you'll be okay. That's what you're feeling. That's why you freeze. You go crazy and you go, like that at the same time. The key to it is to be able to put things in place that fill the gaps on what you're not very good at. So think about the speech you're going to do. Make a speech so if your PowerPoint crashes, you still know your story. It's on your phone. Put things there. So if it falls out, I did a big gig for a really important company out here, and the room had about 1,000 people in it, and most of them were Emiratis. And my PowerPoint crashed, and I'm in there in front of a really important VIP audience. And I said, you know what? Forget this presentation. I'm going to use the rest of our time to do a Q&A. What's your biggest headache at work? And I conducted this conversation with the audience while my laptop reset itself, which took about half an hour because it was downloading. Before I used a Mac, I was using a normal PC. And so it was downloading the software to update, which it had. And by the time it had that, I reset it. And then I got it while I'm talking to the audience. into the space where I wanted it to do, got to almost the end of the presentation. And I said, right, that was amazing. Give yourselves a round of applause. Here's the thing I wanted to say as a summary of everything we went through. Went to the PowerPoint, played the last few slides, and then finished off. Everyone was, it's amazing. I'm thinking, dodged a massive bullet. Why was I able to do that? Because of the fact I know audiences, so I wasn't scared.
And you were prepared, probably.
And I was prepared. Yeah, I can talk to an audience without any preparation anyway. And I need to get them from A to B. And I'd spent many years learning this skill.
So improvising has to be probably one of the skills in the pocket when you go on as well, because there's a difference between improvising or speaking from the script, right? Last question.
It flies past when you're having fun.
I can't believe it's an hour already.
You let me talk about my childhood. Don't do that next time.
Have you ever froze in front of an audience in your past?
No, I haven't, and I never will. I'll tell you what I have had. I was doing a gig in South Africa with my hypnosis show. So I was at Comedy Stage Hypnotist doing a tour of South Africa. And I was doing my first gig in Johannesburg in the Caesar's Palace complex. It's a big hotel resort. I was in the theatre. It was the first day was a media day, so it was about 3/4 of the theatre was full of media. And so it was really important to get that right. So I went out on stage, halfway through the show, about half an hour, 40 minutes in, got 10 people hypnotized on stage, doing everything I want them to, and then the lights go out, and the power goes out, and we're in silence and darkness. And I'm thinking, what's just happened here? So I'm talking to the guys in the wings, so I can just about make out because the mobile phones are illuminating. I'm saying, what do we do? I can't do the show because if I say anything, these guys will jump off stage if I tell them, and they'll hurt themselves in the dark. I've got an audience full of VIPs looking at me, and I'm thinking, what do I do with this? So I talked for about 10 minutes, trying to wait for somebody to switch a light. Nothing happened. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I've got this audience. I'm in a theatre, so the microphone doesn't have to work because they must put shows on here. So I said to the room, I said, can you still hear me at the back? They said, yes. So I said, okay, let's go on an adventure. Everyone take a big deep breath and close your eyes. And I hypnotized the entire room. And I took them on a journey of self-exploration and positive visualization to see themselves being successful in the future and to get gifts that they were going to get from their future self, talking to their future self. And when I finished that, I brought them all out of it, got them to open their eyes, switch on their phones, illuminate the place, and give themselves a round of applause. The round of applause woke up the guys on stage, and we were able to conclude the entire event. So it worked really well. And then I said, as you walk out, then have the most amazing evening. They opened the doors and the lights were on outside, because when you go to Caesar's Palace in South Africa or any other place, they know there's power cuts all the time. They've got their own generators, but they just don't use them on restaurants and theatres. They use them on the gaming areas because that's where they make the money. And so I had no idea. It was one of the most challenging experiences I had and one of the most beautiful and possibly rewarding ones, because when you've had that, and at Rugby Sevens, we had times when the generators got flooded. You just work the audience. It's taking defect and making into the effect. Is that like an English saying? I don't even know. I don't know, but it sounds better than what I was saying. Defect from effect, but you don't say effect. So I think it's like a Latvian phrase that we use. It's making it work. It's making it work at the end of the day. Exactly. And leaving people better off than they were when you first left them, when you first met them. And I find that really important in everything I do. It doesn't matter whether a waiter or people putting petrol in your car. You say thank you to everybody so their day gets a little bit better and you've left them better off. And that circulates and comes back to you. And I think we can end on that note that it's very important to keep the focus on the topic and the thing that you do that helps people, instead of focusing on yourself and what do people will think and whatever they will think, as long as that kind of helps and has of use and purpose. I tell people, jump and grow wings on the way down. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Bye. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.